Welcome to Podcasting Power Hour with your host, Jeff Townsend, aka the Indie Podcast Father. I'm your co-host, Greg, from Indie Drop-In Network. Podcasting Power Hour is recorded live every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitter Spaces. Every week, an experienced panel of podcasters and other experts will tackle your podcasting questions. We will, of course, put links to all of our guests and any relevant information in the show notes. All right, let's get this party started.
All right, we'll go ahead and get it kicked off. Podcasting Power Hour. Is it the 14th of November today? Holy crap, time is flying. I'm Jeff Townsend. I'm a podcaster guy. Nothing crazy, nothing too good. I just claw and fight my way to the top. Never gave two shits about my reputation, just the content creation. Joining me today is my best friend, Greg, the creator, the founder, the genius, the six-figure plus guy off podcasting, Greg from Indie Drop-In.
Jeff, you didn't tell anyone that you're MySpace famous. I mean, that's like your claim to fame. You were podcasting before podcast was a thing. You can find my earliest content on MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. That's are you trying to live those days down? Like you don't want that brought up anymore?
No, that's fine with me.
Oh, okay.
It's like
Al
Al
He never
Bundy,
stops
right?
talking about it.
It's like Al Bundy. I scored 3 touchdowns or whatever he kept saying in that shit. Yeah, that's what
exactly. Exactly. I had a million followers before a million followers was cool.
It's true. Now look at me. I've got nothing. All right. Joining us as usual, Fuzz and Jim. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. I'm here at the office. I'm writing 2 employer reviews for tomorrow. Got some grocery store sushi. Should be good to go.
Jesus, what kind of life is that?
Top that now.
I was going to say, my duct tape and coat hanger don't sound nearly as bad right now.
No, I'm moving to Western Pennsylvania.
Actually, I could go for some duct tape and whatever you else got. Do it.
All right. She has returned. Tanner Campbell will call her the girl of podcasting, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call her the woman of Twitter podcasting. Arielle Nissenblatt, glad you're back. I hope you've been traveling the world or something, haven't you?
Yeah, and I am back and I'm never leaving again. I'm so tired.
Yeah, that has to be exhausting. Like you're constantly doing something, and I'm always thinking like, I'd be kind of tired, but I'm old, so So
I can't believe we weren't prepared with like the theme song. Arielle needs a theme song every time she comes.
Yeah, it's very quiet here, and I think a theme song would have helped.
Yeah.
Would it be like girls just want to have fun, or what do you think?
Yeah, people just don't know of your, gravitas when you enter the room. There definitely needs to be some sort of chime.
One of my favorite Twitter people for sure. So Greg had you come on today to talk about some marketing. I know you had a really good thread that's a great resource, and it has more to it than just, hey, tweet out your latest episode link. Please listen to it.
Yeah. Arielle's famous for the follow Fridays.
Yeah, it's really my favorite thing.
Follow for a follow.
That's her claim to fame. No, but I saw Arielle's tweeted this out and it kind of gave me an idea. It said, starting a podcast is one thing. Consistently marketing that podcast is a whole other beast, which, man, I couldn't agree more. And it said, what questions do you have about growing your show? Throw me a question and then scroll through and help others. And what's funny about these is sometimes these tweets get you in trouble because what was the one that was like, for every like,
it's
I'll
currently
review.
happening.
Oh.
My pinned tweet right now is, for every like that this gets, I'll recommend a podcast, and it's at 600 right now, and my recommendations are at like 60 something. So I'll be doing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, there's no catching that. But hey, that's the point, right? Because this is what we're talking about.
Just recommend my show. Nobody will trust your judgment after that.
Yeah, you want to kill the thread. Just that's one way to do it.
If you had Twitter Blue, you had 30 minutes to take that back. You could reword it, Arielle.
That's hilarious.
I was going to say there are a lot more check marks in here than there were last time.
That's right. I have $8.
Lots of people getting famous around here. Yeah, that's right. That's it.
I bought it off James Cridlin.
Oh yeah. Well, I bought it off somebody. Someone changed their name to me, and I just had to buy that account in order to stay on Twitter because no one can change their names back.
Well, Greg, with that being said, man, I'll let you kick this off. I know you just kind of did, but Jesus, take the wheel. It's yours, buddy.
Yeah, no. So I instead of just reading this tweet, which is the extent of my preparation,
so that folks can follow along with it. Do you have it up?
I have it up on my computer, not on my phone.
Okay.
I'll get it. Okay, you got it. Okay,
thanks.
I'll get it.
But what I wanted to start with is, why do you think marketing a podcast is so challenging? And I don't know if it's more or less challenging than anything else. So maybe we won't compare and contrast, but like, what do you, let's start with the bad, and then we'll go into some solutions. But, why do you think it's so hard?
I think because it's ongoing, it's so hard. I think a launch is one thing. You can drum up a lot of excitement around a launch. But like I said in this tweet, having to consistently do that is very hard. And even if you have a show that week after week, you are putting in as much effort as you were the first episode, you can't possibly help the fact that humans are wired for a launch. It is new and exciting to support something that is just launching. It becomes less exciting when something is consistently great. So I don't know. I try every once in a while, the shows that I listen to on a weekly basis that I love equally week after week. I try every once in a while to be like, you know what? Lindsey Graham of History Daily put out another incredible episode today and yesterday and the day before. But it is very hard for Lindsey Graham to tweet that he has a new amazing episode out every single day. But for example, last week, I think he reached 1 year of History Daily. And that's the kind of thing that's exciting. That's the kind of thing that he can tweet about that's going to get a couple hundred likes because people love an occasion to rally around.
Yeah, it reminds me of sales. It's what have you done for me lately? And it's really only to bubble up into the consciousness of people, really. There has to be something noteworthy. So is there any way to break through, we'll call it, I hate to call it marketing hygiene, but what are some weekly tasks that you would suggest before we get into any of these specifics, but something, if you were to put together a plan of the basics, like, hey, you should at least do this thing consistently, what bubbles up to the surface?
Yeah. So I will make some recommendations. Then I will also recommend in general that people should be subscribed to Podcast Marketing Magic, because a few months ago, they did an entire issue on this exact question. It was a weekly checklist and then a long-term checklist for what to do to market your show. Off the top of my head, what should you do to market your show? If you have a weekly podcast and it's an interview podcast per se, maybe you have a checklist where you create assets specifically for that guest. And I don't just mean making assets like audiograms, like Twitter photos, like Instagram photos, like Instagram Reels. That's way too much for to do for somebody that might not even repost them. So on an individual basis, I would ask your guest where they're most likely to share that episode, find out that information from them, and then make it as easy as possible for them to share that episode. Then I was going to say make a Twitter thread, but I don't really know what the future of Twitter is. I'll just say it really depends on the social media platform that you are most active on. That's where I would be posting about that episode. But again, there's so much variance that goes into what you should be posting about, how long your post should be, if your post should include an image, if your post should include a video, if your post should include just text. Lots of thoughts on that. That's why I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I hate to give general advice because the answer often is it depends. All of this is it depends. And I know that sucks and I know it's a cop-out, but I find that so many quote unquote podcast gurus give large sweeping podcast advice, and it is basically useless for the majority of people. You need to be able to get granular with people about what their show is about and what's the best course of action to market that show. I would say in general, being active on social is important. Posting and hoping for those posts to convert is very difficult. I see Gary is here. Gary has a really successful TikTok. In my head, it's successful. Gary has a podcast called Everything Everywhere Daily. Is it daily, Gary? Just let me know. And it's great. And I really like what you're doing with TikTok. So finding where your podcast is going to resonate with a group of people is great. TikTok is a whole different beast, just because even if you are attracting people on TikTok and getting hundreds of likes and thousands of views, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be your longtime podcast listener base, but it is good because overall social media, your goal should be to be seen as an expert in your area so that people trust you, so that eventually if they want more from you, they go and check you out on your podcast. Social media is important. Another thing I would do is be consistently pitching yourself as a guest on other shows in your area. And you're going to want to experiment with that a lot. So it's not just be a guest on 30 different shows that have one of your keywords in their title. It's maybe pitch yourself to 5 shows. Some are bigger than you, some are smaller than you, some are just your size. And if you find that one of those episodes converts really well, I would spread them out so that you can figure out the conversion tactics on that and figure out if it's really worth it for you to be guesting on this show more often. That maybe that takes building a larger and more complex relationship with that podcast in particular. And then, as always, I would be pitching to publications. And that means probably dedicating a lot of your time to researching publications in your topic area or in your guest's topic area so that you can pitch a specific episode. That was a lot. I'll stop there.
So if we boil this down to like let's give a checklist or very close to a basics, because we can't have one-on-one conversations with everybody. You got to start somewhere just to learn what converts. I mean, when I first advertised in earbuds, you were like, hey, your landing page is terrible, right? But I had to like Google landing pages and build something to start, right? And then you helped me iterate it to something that was useful. But so that's just kind of how I think when, I agree with you that advice should be tailor made, but until you talk to me about my landing page, all I had to go on was what I found online. Right.
Yeah.
So, what I hope that we can give to people who don't want to come up and ask for specific advice or hear this podcast is just, if we boil it down and say, if you guest on one show a month, would you consider that successful? What would you consider like a minimum criteria of success for just starting?
Unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, I don't think you can, because, it's nice to make yourself quantitative goals like that.
Yeah, something to do.
Yeah, but what if that one guesting experience is a complete shit show and it just doesn't make sense at all for your show? But oh, look, you checked off the box. Like I wouldn't do it based on that.
Well, I think you iterate based on that, right? Like you have to do something, and then you look and go, okay, what was good, what was bad, but you have to do something.
Yeah, I would say if you really want to think about, here's one thing that I think every podcaster should do, and you can do this pretty often. First of all, you should have claimed your show on all of the different podcast listening apps, or verified that it's yours on all of the different podcast listening apps. And in a lot of those places, once you do that, you can apply to be featured, whether that is through an official channel like a submission form, or through getting to know the curator by being a little sneaky and figuring out who they are and then following them on Twitter and then hitting them with the right pitch at the right time. And so for the places that do have forms where you can apply to be featured, I think strategically pitching them at the right times when you have a new exciting episode out is a tactic that you can take once a month. And then also, once you've claimed your show on all these different podcast listening apps, a lot of them have their own comment features. So what you can do is go through and respond to comments and like some certain things, and maybe even screenshot some of them so that you can then post them on social to build buzz. I think that is my biggest takeaway lately, is you want to be constantly building buzz for your podcast. Because like I said before, your show is launched, and now that it's launched, it's out there in the world, and that's great, but it's really hard to make news once it's launched. And so I really want to just impress upon people that every piece of press that you get, even if it's a podcast review, is something that you can go to Canva, put a nice background behind it, and post it on social and say, look, people are talking about my podcast.
I think the comments thing is very interesting, because I stumbled on this kind of by accident. And what I found is in Castbox, and it happens to be true in Good Pods too, but to a lesser extent. But in Castbox, I realized that if people have followed my show and I commented on my own show, it would show up in their feed. So I would comment on my own show and just say, hey, everybody, what did you think of this, or this? And I would get 3 or 4 comments. And if I didn't comment anything, no one would comment ever.
Yeah.
So unless it was hostile, then I had to email Castbox.
Yeah, Castbox even has a little bit of a spam problem over there too. But most of the comments are good, or at least they are real people.
Yeah.
Just for context there, Castbox on the homepage has a few buttons at the bottom. One of them is your library. One of them is the homepage. Another one is the comments section. So that's a feed. So you can get to your comments by the feed, and you can see all the things that are happening. Or you can go to your specific episode or podcast, and people can comment on the podcast as on a whole or on each episode. And that's a cool way to interact with your listeners. And what I would say is, I would monthly be going to your podcast, your hosting site, and looking at your analytics and seeing where your listeners are coming from. And if you see an uptick in listeners from CastBox, I would even record something that says, hello to all of our new listeners from CastBox. Leave me a comment. I hang out there all the time. I would love to say hello to you.
Jeff, did you want to expand or have any comments or questions? I don't want to take up the whole time.
I mean, not necessarily, but I think the big thing is, and the purpose this all is, it's important to highlight, is just getting out in front of people and engaging in the community is like a buzzword. I know that community, but I don't really know how else to say it. But it's really getting out there and finding different ways to meet and interact with these individuals, especially when you're don't have necessarily like maybe a huge team behind it or huge funds behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing, and this episode's kind of all about Arielle, so I'm going to bring up something else. But one thing that Arielle said that has been stuck in my brain is somebody asked if they should start a community, and I'm going to paraphrase here. Arielle, you responded, "Are you sure your listeners want to be grouped, that they want to interact in a community?" And I just thought, man, podcasting just got harder, because that's true. Like, I've tried multiple times to create communities around indie drop-in, and they work to an extent, but only few people are like into podcasting. A lot of people that have podcasts are into the thing they're podcasting about, and podcasting is just something that they're forced to do to talk about NASCAR or whatever.
Right.
So what would you say to that? I mean, if you can't create a community, how do you kind of build lasting fans?
What a question. I think that what I mean when I say you don't have to create a community really is just, you don't have to use the buzzword of community to when it comes to grouping the people who listen to your podcast. I'm just sick of hearing you got to build a community. Because you have to think about this. James Cridlin has a podcast. James is here. James's podcast is called Pod News. It's daily. It's 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes shorter. And I listen to it when I am doing other things. I listen to it when I am brushing my teeth or washing the dishes, or just it's the morning, and that's when it comes out in my neck of the woods, and I'm listening, and I'm not necessarily thinking, I've got to go discuss the latest Pod News episode with my Pod News friends. So to me, there's not much of a community surrounding James's podcast. However, there is a community surrounding Pod News in general. But these are just some things to think about. What is the user behavior of the people who listen to your podcast? Is your podcast a commute podcast? And you can find that out by asking your listeners or by trying to figure out when they're downloading the podcast. If it's a commute podcast, maybe they don't have time. Maybe it's not a hands-free opportunity for them to then go on Twitter and post about it, or to join a Discord and talk about it. So you just have to think about and ask questions of your audience, what they want from you as a host, or what they want from each other. It doesn't necessarily need to be a host-led community. There's a podcast that I listen to called The Daily Zeitgeist that has an entire Discord completely unassociated with the podcast itself. It's just fans of the podcast. They made it because that's what they wanted to do. Over the years, the podcast has acknowledged it, but they don't necessarily, it's not created by them. And there are a lot of examples of this. So you just need to, when you are considering building a community, consider not just what that community should look like, but how the individuals who you want to be part of that community are going to interact with it. Not every community has to be a Discord. Some communities, like, for example, every asset, every company, every podcast, truly every brand can have a community associated with it. The example that I give is like McDonald's could have a beta tester community of people who test out their chicken nuggets, the newest flavors, before they go to market. That's a community, but that community doesn't necessarily need to meet on a weekly basis to discuss how much they love McDonald's. They're just needed for that specific task. So think about what you want out of this community. Think about what you want out of these listeners and why you want this. So Greg, you said you've tried to start a community, but it's hard to group them. Ultimately, what would you get if you grouped them successfully?
I would jump in if I could and just say also to think about what that community wants, like not just what you want out of that community, but what does the community gain by being a part of this group
just to jump in there, it's not just that. It's like, think about this. There are at least 20 podcasts represented right in this Twitter space right now. Imagine if I listened to all of your podcasts and I was part of all of your communities. That's nuts. I listen to 30 podcasts probably throughout the week, every week. And I switch in sometimes, I switch out some of those, whatever. I'm not part of all of those, but I know I've heard like the Daily Zeitgeist, like I mentioned before. I'm not on their Discord, but I love their show. I consider myself a super fan, but I don't want to be grouped like that with the Daily Zeitgeist for whatever reason. So just consider all of these possibilities.
Yeah, for me personally, what I'm looking for out of a community is really just to try to dig up podcasters to interact with. Really, it's just kind of a way to do what we're doing right now. That's what I'm kind of hoping to achieve. And what I've figured out, and kind of how when people ask me about this, because I have a similar view, although I didn't phrase it like, do people want to be grouped? Because I never really thought about it from that perspective, which, I should have. But, the things that I tell people are, there's likely a community already existing that you could contribute to and add value, and you might not need to like recreate the wheel. Like,
I love that. Yeah.
Like for me in my day job in technology, like another technology community would add no value at all, but I could totally add value in a tech community. Like, so, as far as podcasting, that's what I'm trying to do. So that's why I do this with Jeff. And, anywhere I can contribute to the podcast community, I try to do it in a positive fashion. And I still will have my own stuff, but I've boiled it down to like, the Twitter group, a Facebook group, and like a newsletter. So just try the basics. Fuzz, what do you think? I know you commented already, but what do you think people should do about community besides contribute to one existing? Anything stand out?
Well, I think it really goes to say, do your listeners want to be a part of a community is a thing. And if they don't, then don't try to force that and go in some other direction. So we as podcasters have some shared suffering, I would say, in terms of, trying to get our shows out there and our messages out there and those things. So we have a little bit of that want to be around people who are, suffering the same way we are. But then when you talk to some other places, like, for instance, we work a lot with landscapers and snowplows, we'll say, snowplowers. They are competitors to one another, and a lot of times they don't want to help each other. So they don't want to be a part. Exactly. They're their own thing. They're successful on their own, and they don't want to share what makes them successful or what works for them. And if somebody asks them what is working for them, they don't want to be a part of that because they don't want to give away the thing that they've worked so hard to achieve. We're different here in this space. And it sort of really depends on your audience and what your show's about. Sometimes we get on these shows and a lot of us here talk about podcasting, and that's kind of our thing that we like. But there are also those here who podcast about things other than podcasting. And you have to think about your group, some places like finance and some other kind of groups are really tight knit and they're good with that. And that's cool. If you want a community there, that's awesome. But think about that first and realize that your audience may not want to be there. And you need to put yourself in their mindset, I think, before you worry about selfishly what's your own. And if a community isn't what's going to help get people to listen to your show or keep listening to your show, you need to find something else. So that's what marketing is, right? So trying something, adapting, moving on to the next thing, or testing something else if that's not working for you.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing in podcasting. I don't know what the statistics are on this, but a huge percentage of people who listen to podcasts become podcasters. I think about this a lot because a lot of the people who advertise in earbuds are people who have products for podcasters. And I'm sometimes like, that's maybe not a good fit. But then my other thought is most of these people, when they subscribe to my newsletter, one of the questions that I have is, what's your favorite podcast? And that's, so that I can weed out the bots so that they actually give me a real answer. They all put the name of their own podcast. I know because the name matches their name. And it's very clear that a lot of these people have their own podcasts. So it is a medium. Like, I don't know how many books there are in the world and then how many people who read books, but I would think that the number is very different from the people who podcast. I don't know why the pipeline is so strong from listener to podcast, but it really is. So all that is to say, it is hard to get all of these people to listen to all of these podcasts about podcasting.
I have an answer to that. It's easier to talk than write.
Yeah, But no, I'm not thinking about why are there not more writers in the world? I'm just thinking, why.
That's why there's more podcasters, because anybody, no, they let me talk. They won't let me write. I can promise you.
Who's they though? You could publish your own book.
Nobody would buy it.
Do you want to? I don't want to. I don't like writing.
Yeah, we'll see.
Jeff Bezos has permanently banned him from indie Kindle.
Amazon altogether.
I also wanted to just give the example of how I came up with the Squadcast community model, if that's helpful.
Please.
Yeah. So I was hired at Squadcast in August of 2020. I didn't have any formal community experience, meaning I'd never had the word community in my title, but I've been informally building communities for, I don't know, since college. I was in a lot of groups that, put on events and got people together to facilitate discussions and things like that. And I just never thought of that as a community builder, but that's exactly what it is. So when I started at Squadcast, my instinct was let's find ways to elevate the people who consider themselves Squadcasters. And, there's tens of thousands of people who use Squadcast, but not all of those people, there's a spectrum of how much they want to be involved. There's the people who want to record and then want to immediately tell people about their recording on Squadcast and want to be involved all the way through and want to text me and meet me when they go to Podcast Movement, and they want to send me squad shots every single time they have an episode that goes out, and they want to take advantage of every single opportunity that I put out there. And then there's people who use Squadcast and then are done and don't even know the name of the person who founded it and don't know that there is a position of community manager. They don't care. That's fine with me too. All of those people are valid. All of those people are our customers. But the people who want to be grouped are the people who are, sending in squad shots, the people who want to be featured on the podcast and all that kind of stuff. I love everybody, but I make the community for the people who want to be part of the community. And so what I did when I started was after a few months of assessing the situation, hearing from people, having some one-on-ones with people who are active community members, I put out an email that just said, if you want to be part of building the Squadcast community, I named it the Squad Pod early on. I think naming it is a good thing to do. Then fill out this doodle. We're going to have a Google or a Zoom. Should have been a Squadcast, but at the time we could only fit 4 people. Now we can fit 10. Obviously needed even more than that. We had 100 plus people come to this first event, where in it we took notes on what a community looks like and what people wanted out of a community. So we had a few different hoops to jump through. First, you needed to fill out the form to say that you wanted to be part of this community. Then you needed to attend this event. Then at this event, we took notes. And then afterwards, people indicated that they wanted to meet on Slack. So then we created a Slack channel. And then within the Slack channel, we created all sorts of ways to stay involved. And that's what it looks like now. There's a Slack channel that has all sorts of ways to be involved. You can submit an episode to be featured in our newsletter. You can ask for guests. You can ask to be a guest. You can figure out promo swaps. You can troubleshoot tech issues. You can ask about being part of the affiliate program. There's lots of different communities within this established community. And we use the community to crowdsource. Like like I said before, it's a two-way street. So what do they want out of it? And then what does Squadcast want out of it? Ultimately, my goal is to make people so obsessed with Squadcast that they make me obsolete as a community leader, that there are community leaders going around talking about Squadcast. The other day, I put on LinkedIn something about how you don't necessarily need to have a video plan for your podcast in 2023. And somebody commented, yes, but with Squadcast, they make it so easy. And I was like, damn, you're doing my job for me. So that's I'm happy.
One thing you pointed out there that I really believe is true is that the communities are really designed for, the quote unquote super fan. I mean, in your case, you're a tech company, so you have people that are fans of the tech, you have people that are fans of the company, you have a lot of overlapping things. You have probably beta testers and affiliates and all those different kind of things. But I think it's unrealistic to think a community is going to be a majority of your listeners. And, this was hard for me at first in podcasting, because I had a pretty, when we first met you were at Castbox, I was promoting one of my first shows, and, it was sad.
Which
when Fan Dummies,
yes,
it stopped so I could do indie drop-in, but, it would get a lot of listens. I mean, for me at the time, it was a lot. It was like 20 to 30,000 downloads an episode, thanks to
awesome.
marketing, thanks to Castbox and paid ads and lots of investment. But, then we would get like 6 patrons and 10 people would fill out our survey, and, we'd have 20 people participate in a contest. And I would think to myself, like, this, podcasting is really hard. Like, are these people listening? Do they like us? Are we doing good work? Because
that's demoralizing.
The feedback is such a, it's like 1% of 1%, not just 1%, but like 100th%. And it just goes to show that you will, and we did eventually start to peel out these super fans where they would always comment on our YouTube. They would always, they would, whatever we would release, a shirt or whatever, they would buy it immediately. And over time, they start to stack up. But I was always surprised at the level of super fan you really have to achieve in order to start to build this group.
Yeah, it is. It also depends. There's a number of factors that go into this. The topic that you chose, Fan Dummies, it's about gaming. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a TV movie pod. So it's like, Batman and superheroes.
So think about this. The act of watching TV is a solitary act. I mean, maybe you do it with a friend. Maybe you do it with a couple friends every once in a while. But yes, people want to go and discuss that. But, it's just something to think about is like, again, what is the user behavior of the people who are listening to your show? When are they listening to your show? Why are they listening to your show? And are you hitting them with the right requests at the right time? It's so impossible to put a reason on why only 6 people would respond. I'm sure that if I went and listened to your call to action to ask people to take the survey, I would have critiques, and then somebody else would say it's perfect, and then other people would say I don't know why it's converting, and then other people would have a different set of critiques. There's just I don't know what the answer is, but I am
for sure.
very happy to throw out issues.
Yeah, no, it everything improves over time, and that's what really the moral of the story, and hopefully I want everybody to hear that is, it gets better as time goes on. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a crazy person about niche, because during that show, which we did for a little over 2 years, which was a really good run, we niched down several times. And every time we did, community engagement more than doubled, probably more than tripled, because we started to, I'll use specific examples, right? We started to kind of hone in on the people that liked the same stuff as us. Instead of talking about such a broad topic, someone who, I'll just use Batman again since I use it. Someone who's super into Batman knows that our knowledge of Batman is, just whatever the movie was that was just out that we're talking about, that we're not fanatics on Batman. So they just, pass us up on that topic. But when we started to drill down and really get into a deeper niche, we started to find common ground, I think, for people to kind of elevate themselves from just listener to a participant in the show. So that's why these variety shows, people ask me how to market them. And I say, well, first, can you be viewed as somebody that is able to have a deep conversation on this topic? Because that's what those people really, really want. I mean, they really want somebody to, like in Jeff's case, talk about Indiana, right? They really want somebody who has the chops to discuss something.
I work with a podcaster named Kimmy Culp. Her podcast is called All the Wiser. It's an amazing show about traumatic life experiences and how people cope on the other side of that. But pitching her as a guest is difficult because she is really good at telling other people's stories. But where does that leave her story?
Yeah, but I bet that's really great at building community because it's a common ground that people can stand.
Oh, yeah. It's a great show. It gets thousands and thousands of downloads, but that's just something to think about is Kimmy does have a story. She happens to have an amazing story of her own. But that's an example of somewhere where if you're not careful if you don't give enough of yourself in each episode, people will have no idea why you're there and why you're telling that story. There's a show called Media Circus. It is hosted, it's between seasons right now, by Kim Goldman, who is the sister of Ron Goldman, who was killed with Nicole Brown in the OJ story. Really interesting. And her podcast is Media Circus because she talks to people who were in the spotlight on different stories and different very high profile media stories. And she is clearly the right person to be hosting that, but didn't strike the right balance between, sharing why she was there as the host, and then also letting her guests tell their story. We would wonder why it was her, but she did such a good job giving her positionality. Why was she the right person to tell that? And every single episode strikes the balance perfectly. I really highly recommend that show for just figuring out how to position yourself within your story and amongst your guests.
Podcasting Power Hour is part of Indie Drop-In Network. If you are a podcaster looking to grow your listeners, check out IndieDropIn.com. Indie Drop-In is always free, and we have opportunities right now for comedy, true crime, scary, and paranormal podcasts. Just go to IndieDropIn.com to learn more.
Jeff, any comments on that?
No, I think it's all great advice, not necessarily any comments on it. Fuzz, what do you got?
No, I think it was a great story. I agree. I was just sitting back listening and not thinking of any sort of add-on to that. Thank you for sharing, Arielle.
Yeah, that's a good one. So far in our conversation, we've talked about mostly free stuff, and that was really by design because I know people get they have comments on free versus paid marketing. So I just wanted to.
Should. There's so much that you can do that's free.
I know that that's. Yeah,
I can go in more depth on free stuff if you want.
Well, I wanted to pull this one comment out of your thread that says, which strategies have the highest ROI? By the way, the question, I don't know. I don't love the question, but I want to hear you answer it live. It says, which strategies have the highest ROI? Press releases, which makes me laugh. Paid online advertising, paid print ads, award nominations, social media, word of mouth campaigns, guest appearance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a completely valid question. But I only laugh because we talked about press releases, was it last week or the week before? And Fuzz repeatedly smacked my hand on it. So,
hey, I like press releases. Press releases is what James Cridland requires to be featured in Pod News. And he has a whole thing on his website about how to do that.
Oh, for sure. Fuzz doesn't want.
I think, and I agree. If you have news, I think that it's a great thing. If it's you trying to advertise something that's not news but should be an ad, if you should be sponsoring Pod News instead of trying to get James to talk about your thing that's not really news, then that's where I take issue, and that's just from my world. I
also get press releases every single week in my earbuds email for a podcast that has a new guest every single week. And I do not want that every week. And like I said, it is really hard to maintain the energy of a launch, but still, I don't know. When I work with clients, do not send a press release every single week. Right, James Cridland? Every once in a while when it's exciting.
Okay. So stop sending Arielle the email every week.
That. But what else was said there? I just want to go back to something.
No. So basically, the question is the highest ROI. There's a whole list of things, but what is the heavy hitter in the list really for you?
Yeah. So being featured on podcast listening apps will get you a big spike in downloads, and that's really awesome. And that's what some people want. Especially if you have maybe just like a 6-episode season, and if you can be featured on Apple's New and Noteworthy. And maybe you go from, 500 downloads an episode to 2,000 downloads an episode. That's huge, right? And then maybe you come back a few months later and you've managed to maintain the listeners that you had the first time around, and then you build on them because maybe Apple likes you so much or Spotify likes you this time around and they want to feature you. That's really great. That's a really awesome way to get a spike, but a spike is a spike. And so my favorite way to grow over time is to find the right partners to collaborate with, and then to find the right ways to collaborate with them. A lot of people think it's just a cross promo. Oh, let me set up a cross promo. But when you find the right partner for a cross promo, spend time with them. Don't just do a one-off. Figure out what elements from within that cross promo may convert or may not convert, and then figure out how you should iterate on that. So maybe it should be a mid-roll, but you tried it as a post-roll. Maybe it should be 30 seconds, but you tried it for 60 seconds. Shorter sometimes is better in that case. So lots of different factors. And I think sometimes people do need to hear it more than once, and they need to hear it in a different way and not just the same ad repeated week after week, but really trying something new, explaining genuinely why you should check out the show and why they should check out yours.
Any fear in losing your audience to that person if the show's too close, or is that a unfounded
Don't go too
fear?
close.
Yeah, I think it has to be adjacent. At least that's what I feel most comfortable with. Somebody who would like both shows.
Sound like Dave Jackson now.
I do?
Me?
Oh, I'm sure he's making fun of me.
Dave always talks about that. As far as taking a week off or feed dropping, or
we love a feed drop. Yes.
Yeah.
That's really big. Thanksgiving is coming up. That's an opportunity for you to potentially take a week off, but not really take a week off. Find a show that makes sense to drop in your feed, and then you record 30 to 60 seconds explaining genuinely why somebody might like that show, and then make sure that they do that for you as well.
Yeah, feed drops are awesome. I don't think anything beats in-app features
for spikes.
For spikes. But I get, depending on the show, but I regularly get in the 10% conversion range on a feed drop, which
that's awesome
for marketing is 9% more than average.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. What else we got?
Well, hold on.
Oh, Jim. Slow on the mute button, buddy.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Well, you were quick talking. We did okay. So we got the feed drops in the Swapcast. We didn't get to the nuts and bolts of that question. We had the press releases. We had the social media ads and the other things. So what's the next step? Up, down? I don't know which way it goes, but you can figure that out on your own.
Well, the highest ROI you're saying is in-app features, followed by but then it's promo swaps, right?
You can't just get featured once. So yeah, I mean, you might, if you get featured, you're lucky to be featured. But the tactic, and this is the reason. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm looking for something that we could throw it on Destiny on, I guess, besides feed drops.
Something that you're not waiting for someone else to like your show.
Somebody else,
yeah.
Then I would go with strict promo swaps that really fit, and also never think that your show is at its tip-top shape. Like, I think it might take some genuine. Maybe you have to spend money, or maybe you really have to ask a friend or a friend of a friend for a genuine reaction to your show. But your show could just be bad. I think people forget that.
Yeah, I fall in this trap, honestly. I don't know, hopefully I've not made a bad show, but I've definitely made worse shows than I make now.
Or it could just not be hitting the points that you want it to hit. And I think this comes off most often with podcast cover art. It's that you think it comes off one way, but really you've missed that this logo secretly is giving you the middle finger. Like, that could happen, and you just missed it because you've been too close to the material. Sometimes you just need to send it to somebody else to look over.
That is so true. And there's not enough people to do this work, unfortunately. And even paid, either it's hellaciously expensive or you just can't find anyone to do it. I mean, I had my wife listen to my intro for a new show, and I really thought it was the best thing that I had ever created. Like, I was so proud of it that I saved it and sent, and airdropped it to her phone. I'm like, you got to hear this banging intro that I just made. And she goes, "You're going to use this music?" And I was like, oh my God.
Is
that the one you sent me and I went along with it?
I did send it to you, but I sent it to you after I slowed it down just a little bit.
I was about to say, I really liked it. Man.
Yeah, no, I made an adjustment that she felt was adequate, but I really liked it. So it was, 1 versus 1.
Yeah, I think I love doing little audits for people. I did an asynchronous audit over the weekend. It was really fun. They sent me 4 episodes to listen to. I sent back like 4 pages of notes. That was fun as hell. I love that. You don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, how long did that take you? I mean, 4 episodes. I mean, they could be 30 or an hour long, 30 minutes or an hour long.
Not when you're a fast listener.
You can't get the. What do you listen to it at 1.5?
I listen at 1.8, but then I do one of the episodes on regular speed so that I know what it actually should sound like.
Oh my gosh. Your brain cells just must like absorb this stuff. Like at 1.25, it's it for me.
I think, I built up to it, and I didn't build up to it because I wanted to listen to it fast, but I built up to it because I work in podcasting and I need to be able to listen to a lot of shows, and I can consume it that way. I think, not everybody's learning style is audio. Some people are visual. I am not a visual learner. I do not read books. I have not read books in a really long time because the way that I consume and the way that I synthesize information is through my ear.
Hey, Jim, just in case you're wondering, I know you're worried that you can put it at 0.75. So.
Oh, okay, good. I was wondering.
You can put it.
Hey, not all brain cells are created equal. I just want to trying to be inclusive to Jim.
So I
That's
do have
mean,
a
I
question.
think.
Wait, can we play podcast backwards and get the head of the meeting?
You have a question, and somebody did post a question. I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm trying to get more information on it. But in the meantime, what is one thing, if you had to pick one thing, Arielle, and this is a tough one, the people listening to this should go back and at least give it a shot? What would be the one thing you'd recommend? Everything we talked about today, if you had to pick one.
I think that everybody here today should Google a newsletter in your topic area and see if you can become the podcast correspondent for that newsletter. So if you have a podcast about let's take Rena for example, which is sort of parenting related, I would go to a parenting related newsletter and I would say, can I write a monthly column about parenting as it relates to my podcast with a link, and I will always give you a shout out in my podcast.
Oh, I like that. What do you think? What do you think, Greg?
I like that too. That came up out of nowhere.
Did you really just out of nowhere? Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. I've been actually looking at this because Fuzz recommended on the PR show that you do something similar. What are they? tier 2 media outlets? I never know what you call these things in the business, but the blogs and the newsletters all in your niche. And now I have something else to ask them.
Yeah, try everything. I mean, and I just named it correspondent because it sounds fancy, but you could just be a contributor. You could just be a reviewer. Like maybe you, Rena, review parenting podcasts for the parenting newsletter. And then you also get to plug your show. I mean, something that I've been working on is like, I'd love to just like, I posted on LinkedIn the other day that I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I was like, if you have a publication that's considering covering podcasts, let me write a few recommendations for you every week, And a lot of people got back to me because a lot of people want to cover podcasts in some way.
What would you suggest doing if your podcast is losing listeners? Like if every week you put out a show and it's 1%, 2%, 3% down.
First, I would find out if there's an issue with your hosting site. I feel like you should rule that out. You never know because that's sad, but it is possible. I mean, so you're putting an episode out every single week and you're still losing listenership. I would probably reach out to some longstanding listeners that you have that listen and ask if something has changed in your hosting or in your presentation or something like that. Try to get a sense from them. And then I might even gently call it out on the show and say something like, I would never admit, we're losing listeners week after week. But I would say, if you like this show, now is a really good time to let everybody else know about that. We're resetting some things in HQ over here, and we just would love to hear from you. So just like calling that out a little bit. And of course, the people who you're losing are not going to hear that. So I would post on social about that. And I would post in all of those message forums in the apps to see if maybe those people are there and they're commenting that they're leaving for some reason.
Yeah. The other thing I want to point out on that is that if you buy ads and your listenership is small, or you buy enough ads that it makes a massive dent in your listenership, even if that's going from 100,000 to 500,000, you are going to have some stressful weeks because
there's going to be drop off.
Yeah. What I've noticed is if you can retain a third, you've done really well.
That's what I was referring to before, is that these opportunities where you get featured, or if you buy an ad, you're going to see spikes, but your podcast is being featured to these people. It's being featured to everybody. It is up to anybody who wants to, who is attracted to your cover art, to click on your cover art and to listen. And the second they hit play, and a minute passes or however long it needs to be a certified download, they are counted as a listener, but they might not subscribe and they might not even listen past that first minute. So you're going to get that spike, but you're not necessarily going to get a devoted listener. So that just goes back to cover art. Your cover art really needs to convey what your show is about, so that when people click it, they get what they expected. And spikes are going to happen, and that is just something to be aware of. I was featured in Apple's New and Noteworthy for a podcast that I had 2.5-ish years ago, and we got 18,000 downloads that month as opposed to regular 2,000. And it slowly over time went back to maybe 3,000 a month. So ultimately we gained about 1,000 listeners a month.
I'll take it.
Yep.
I mean,
Look,
for the price.
If we'd kept up with that podcast, maybe we'd eventually be featured again. Or, it wasn't really my priority. It was a side project. So it wasn't really concerning to me. It was more, all of it was an experiment. But yeah.
Arielle, speaking of podcast cover art, so when I went back and we started relaunching this Good Morning Podcasters thing, I'm very colorblind and just launched it by selecting some colors off of a sunrise. And then I saw your post about asking about colors or something like that, which happened to, I doubt it was about mine, but I was happened to be coincidental timing. So I called my wife over. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And she said, oh God, oh no, we need to fix that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then it was a little paint by number there, and feel better about the whole Good Morning Podcasters color scheme now. So, I just wanted to let you know that I saw that, and then I felt very small for a moment, and then we figured it out. I got some feedback. What's that?
Which one was it?
It must have been a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We all post a lot. I don't expect you to remember.
I know what it was about, microphones.
Oh, it may have been that. Yeah, but you had mentioned something about colors or just having people ask you or ask anybody.
Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of just asking people what vibe it gives off. So you did the right thing.
Yes. So I did so at I guess at your instruction. So and it felt better once I had it up, and now I'm confident in it. Mostly, Good. It looks purple to me, but it's not. Apparently, it's blue. So,
all right.
Just want to say that a few people have DM'd me asking if I would look over their or listen to their podcast, and I will do that, but for a fee. That's just a note. I won't do it for free.
Yeah, I was about to. I was about to say the same thing, that you do look over podcasts and provide the 4 pages of notes, but as a service. So I don't know if you want to talk about that. Do you disclose the pricing, or do you have a limit on how many you can handle? Because this is going to be turned into a podcast and be alive for a while.
Yeah, no, I do a sliding scale. If I'm doing a quick turnaround, I really would have to know what you want, actually. So I do these on an ongoing basis, a rolling basis. But I will say that I will work with you. I am not going to charge $5,000 or even $400. So we can work together to figure out what is a price that makes sense for you.
Perfect. So get your podcast looked at by Arielle for $399.99. She'll listen to 4 podcasts and provide you 4 episodes, provide you 4 pages of notes within 7 days.
There you go. 1,000 times.
There, people would look at it. They would go, man, I'm not even on this level.
Good shit.
I'm not even on this level. So
it was all Greek to me.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Jeff, 902. We did it, man. We did it.
I know 210. So I do it. No, I do want to say thanks, Arielle, for reappearing back in here. I know you've been busy, and taking the time to do this is awesome. You sure do a lot of work for this community. And I remember, well over a year ago now, you reached out to me and you're like, hey, you should talk to Brian Barletta. You went the extra mile to engage with me and make that connection. So you do a lot of really great things. And that was just an example of it. So appreciate you.
Thank you. I had somebody today. It means a lot because I had somebody today on Twitter bullying me and being mean to me about my podcast background. It's always good to be validated.
Well, before we stop, I just want to tell a quick story. My friend Josh, who runs a show called Obscure History, Arielle introduced him
so much.
Arielle introduced him to History Daily. Who's the host of that one?
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, yeah. And it changed his life, by the way. Through him, he got connected to studios and is now selling his scripts and doing some writing and all sorts of things. He doesn't have time to make Obscure History, but he's writing the episodes and selling them thanks to the connections from Arielle. So screw whoever the haters are out there.
I know.
Because the connections work. It takes a while, though. He's like, he says to me, I did this for years and it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, making $200 a month on dynamic ads and the occasional host read ad. He goes, and now I just signed I don't want to say, but tens of thousands of dollar deal.
His show is really, really good. And
yeah. I wish he had time to make it.
Me too. I love history podcasts, but he hasn't released an episode since July, but I really recommend checking it out. It's obscure history, and it is really obscure, and it's really cool.
Yeah. So if you're out there chugging away on your podcast, have a little faith. This is a game of years. It's not a game of months. So I know everyone loves to post their 4th episode and ask if 15 downloads is good or bad for the 4th episode. Just keep your head down, because it will work out if you put the effort in. Jeff, Ed's got his hand up there. Ed, you're already as a speaker, buddy. Go on. We're not trying to wrap it up.
Sorry. Just wanted to say thank you to Arielle for creating the podcast Twitter community area and posting the thing about the Southern California meet and greet, because if it wasn't for me seeing that, I wouldn't have won my Vocaster on Saturday. So thank you, Arielle.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was an early 60th birthday present. So happy birthday, Ed, by the way.
Yeah, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, Ed.
All right, thank you. I'm off to have dinner with my wife now, so enjoy the rest of your show.
At
Awesome.
10:05? Well, that's late.
He's in California. Yeah.
I know that was a time zone joke.
It might be late for him still, though.
So funny, Fuzz. So funny.
Well, I mean, he's, also, you get older, and even 7:05 is kind of late for dinner, but he already dropped off.
Is this why
I can't even roast him anymore?
Yeah. Is this why you don't do the radio show anymore? Like your jokes just don't land?
Apparently they're not landing today.
So Arielle, hopefully that feedback makes you feel a little better and balances out your troll, because you make a difference.
Need to learn to not take trolls seriously, but I don't know. Does anybody else have that problem?
Oh, it's so hard, because you're so hard. My show does suck.
All right, I will give you the advice from my old program director, Mike Elliott, who he's a radio Hall of Famer who unfortunately passed away during COVID. But he used to always say to me, whenever I get down about some negative review on the radio, he would always say, if everybody likes you, you're vanilla, and nobody remembers vanilla. So don't worry about the haters.
Yeah, I like that.
If I would have seen that, I would have jumped on that tweet. I didn't see that one.
I will send it to you, because I have been advised not to respond to it, and I think that that's the right move, but that doesn't mean other people can't respond to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the good move on all of those things, this is something I tried very hard to instill into our buddy, Mr. Campbell, is to not respond to this stuff.
Do not engage.
Don't try to be a story in Pod News tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Do not engage.
Thanks for listening. Come back.
Especially not with a 16 tweet thread. All right, Jeff, take us home. I'm sure everybody is ready to go.
Yeah. So no, we do this every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central. Man, there's a whole bunch of different time zones. I don't want to go through them all. Greg, do you know the Alaskan time zone by chance? Or?
No.
I didn't think you did. Neither do I. Fuzz probably does. He knows everything like that.
I think I do, yeah. But I'll keep going.
You don't
Have
want to botch
you heard of Google?
No. What is that?
Hey, Siri, what time is it in Alaska?
Do we need the Alaskan time zone?
You can eliminate all this confusion, though, just by going to my page and keeping an eye out for it. It'll match the time zone up there. You don't have to worry about all this crap. Like, if you are really interested in this, you want to hear back episodes, because I know Twitter boots these off after a month or something. Go to podcastingpowerhour.com. We have it in podcast form. We take all these spaces and put them up there. So like I said, it's a whole catalog of them since, when did we start putting them in there, Greg? Was it July maybe or something?
Yeah. We've got 18 or 19 weeks of episodes in there.
Holy crap.
And how does that show do? I feel like that would be a cool thing to do, is to every week you could say how many downloads it gets.
It doesn't do well. Let me say it that way.
This is the only ever did.
It gets downloads.
Let me just tell you this. Podcast creators, which I haven't uploaded to in 6 months, gets more downloads than this show, which is insane to me.
I have a podcast that I mentioned before, Counter Programming, with Shira and Arielle, that has not published an episode in almost 2 years, and we still get 90 downloads a week. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was all like that show was always like, I'd always look at the title, and whenever it was something absurd, I would listen to it. Like, I know it was always something absurd, but like when you were like counting goats or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's
funny. We're counting sheep. Yeah.
Sheep. Yeah.
Oh, Greg. Oh my gosh. It's past your bedtime. Let's get you to bed. Greg, give us a one-liner that I think can take us.
Let's get you out of here so you can go count goats.
Yeah, give us a one-liner, old Greg. We'll call it a night.
A one-liner what? come find us at podcastingpowerhour.com. Is that what you're looking for? You want me to plug our own show?
I thought it was some inspirational quote you could give, and we could just end it like that.
Oh, if I started counting sheep, I'd fall asleep. So that's why I must count goats so I can stay awake.
I like it.
That's really good.
That is really good. I'm going to get a tattoo of that. Anyways, see everybody next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, it was really fun.
Thanks for coming on.
So, Jeff, after show or no?
We can chill for a while. I'm fine with that.
Thank you for listening to the Podcasting Power Hour. Everyone is free to participate on Twitter Spaces every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. To join, just follow Jeff at podcast_father or Greg at Indie Dropin. If you found this podcast helpful, go into your podcast app and write a quick review. Other podcasters will see it and know this show is worth listening to. Also, I'll put a few links in the show notes for ways you can support the show. I think by now you know we love our coffee. Have a great week.
I can't remember. I remembered that episode on counter programming. It's stuck in my brain. Been a while since she made that show though.
So I still think it's interesting that I kind of like locked in this podcast just named Jeff, right?
Yeah.
And all I did was put like a Jeff Townsend Media production, like quick little note in there to create the RSS feed. And it's getting downloads. I mean,
I will tell. I'm going to tell you this. If you put in things into music players that people will just search, so names, song titles, lyrics, all of those things, if you put those as searchable items, you are going to get downloads. And it's stupid. It's stupid.
It's north of 450 downloads in less than 3 weeks.
What's the audio on it though?
This is a Jeff Townsend Media production.
You should do one with like Mike, Greg, Jim, David. I'm just reading down the list here.
And see who gets more downloads?
Yeah, James. Yeah, you should just see which name. Yeah, dude. No, totally, Jim. You're totally right. You should just do that with names and just see which names get searched the most. I swear to God, I think that would be gold.
And what I'm going to start doing is just
put a pre-roll and post-roll on it.
I'm going to try to find like different ways to pronounce my name and like maybe different languages and stuff and just release that 10 seconds as an episode.
It's just the show. All of the episodes are just 100% dynamic ads. Is that what you're saying, Buzz?
Yes, I totally.
I don't understand how it's getting downloaded though. Like I don't know how they're finding it. Like you said, Fuzz, they have to be searching for Jeff, but I never let.
Yeah, I mean it's they're like searching for what's some famous musician named Jeff. I don't really know.
There's got to be a ton.
But yeah, so I did it just to block it because I bought a domain too. And then like I looked on there, I'm like, holy crap, people are downloading the hell out of this, listening the hell out of it.
That's funny. I repurposed, speaking of that Fan Dummies show, I repurposed the RSS to my Sci-Fi Fanatic show, and that's been very successful. I basically made a small episode saying, hey, sorry, we haven't made any episodes, but this is what's going on with life. We've moved on to these things. And by the way, this feed is transforming into Science Fiction Fanatic. And, I let that sit on there for, like a week or, 5 days or something. And then I flipped the RSS to the Sci-Fi Fanatic show and popped the trailer on there and kind of got it going. But it just goes to show the value of actually buying an RSS feed, because I transferred it from one Spotify account to another. I transferred it from one Apple Podcast account to another. I took it over on all the different podcasting apps. So I went through all that hassle, because it was all two separate logins to everything. Like it was, it had its own Castbox account, had its own, Apple Podcasts and Spotify for Podcasters account, all that. So, if you're thinking about starting a new show, you should think about buying the RSS feed of a similar show or even exact show. And
Buzz and I tried that. It was deleted.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
this is what we got. Yeah, one Twitter account. That's what I got. Yeah, I have not gotten the domains yet, and we've been going back and forth, and he doesn't know how to transfer a domain. And also, in the meantime, I've bought other ones and got my website up and running. So,
well, you're the only person I've ever met that buys nothing. I mean,
you know what?
You could have just started it. What could he have done?
There's some IP involved. If I just jumped on the name, that would have been. I got
that was
280. Yeah, it would have been a dick.
the bank
But I could have done. So I mean, I could have went with my Podlicity name and just could have done a different thing. It just would have taken a little bit to build up to that threshold of 280 Twitter followers that he had. But they've been good. So,
but it does fit you though. I will say that.
Yeah. What's that?
It does fit you though. The Good Morning Podcasters.
I was gonna ask, like legitimately, does it sound okay? Are you guys like?
Oh, I think it's like, see, that's the thing about with Tanner. It's always weird for Tanner to be like that good morning guy, but for me, like you're that good morning guy. Tanner's that podcasting sucks guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm having fun with the podcasting sucks thing. By the way, Jeff, we need to pick a different day to record this week because I am now going to the Green Bay Packers game, even though they sucked this year. One of my vendors is taking us to the game on Thursday night. So we're going to have to pick a different day to record if you've got some time. So either Wednesday night or Friday night.
Wednesday. So we'll try to figure out Wednesday night then.
Okay.
I got to go.
But yeah, I appreciate the feedback. And then also, for those who are still on, I started Good Morning Inbox. It's a Substack. And you go to gmp.fm/news and get you there to the newsletter. And I've got some separate content there. So it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it.
He's also got a website called A Fuzzy Night, but that is not appropriate for Twitter.
Yeah, totally different podcast. Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Mallard's looking for it right now.
Yes,
I'm just trying to figure out all those letters from that Substack. I broke my keyboard, I think. Jesus.
Okay, GMP, like Good Morning Podcasters.fm/news. GMP.fm/news. I know there's only one vowel in all that, but you'll get it.
I'll get it. I'll just pick it on you though.
Hey, Greg, do you agree with me though on the fuzz, like good morning thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. The personality.
That long deep breath in sounded like, no.
No, I do for sure. I do for sure. The, it's just weird hearing you on there, Fuzz, like it just is so strange to me. Cause I listened to that stupid Good Morning Podcast show with Tanner ever since he started it.
Well,
but
listen after podcasting sucks, but that was Tanner. He just delivery of that podcasting sucks was amazing.
It was a great show.
That is Tanner. That was him.
I really do like it, Fuzz. I think it's great. I saw that you changed I saw you change the cover art. Like I thought you had the boathouse or something before.
Yeah, it started as like a boathouse kind of early morning. That was where I was going with Arielle, was that I had taken a sunrise photo and then I selected 3 colors out of it to make it the colors, because I'm like, oh, that's a sunrise, because I know that because I selected sunrise on Envato Elements. Mm-hmm. And found a photo. And that's what my wife did in our kitchen, and it looks great. However, she's not colorblind. So she's like, oh yeah, there's some lavender in there, and like your colors are like lavender, green, and black. I'm like, oh cool, okay, so let's change that. So yeah, I did change it up, and I wanted to be more visible when people were looking on their phones.
Yeah, I like this way better. I was gonna, like, when you were talking about that, I was like, I hope he's not talking about that like lake house looking one, because it's not very good.
No. That was me, like the night that Jeff and I were like, yeah, like I've had enough wine. Let's pull out our Venmo and let's get going. That was that night that I was like, I'm going to use this boathouse.
So I need to understand, like, why is there no microphone anywhere on the cover of this?
I couldn't afford a microphone photo. It was so expensive, so hard to come by. I just didn't know where to find one. I
couldn't resist. Oh my god!
No headphones either.
Yeah. I mean, how are people going to know it's for podcasters? Besides that, it's
I feel so bad. So
wait, no RSS feed logo either.
No, I know. I'm working on it. I did hold off too on putting the old iTunes logo on there. I was working on it, and then I was like, I feel bad though. I'm going to say this out loud in front of a few other people, but you're all friends.
Not many though.
So we had a client at one point, and they're like, "Hey, can you?" They didn't say it to me. They said it to one of our account managers. They're like, "We're creating a podcast. Can your team create us a podcast logo?" And they didn't ask me. And we have like 85 employees. There's like a lot of people, and I don't see every single thing that comes out of this place, but I know the person who does it, and he has a very good podcast, and it's about teachers and all in this stuff. And they created this logo, and it is a like old school condenser mic and headphones. And I'm like, and now whenever I see it, I'm like, I can never talk about not using a microphone in your logo, because if he ever, like when I did that LinkedIn, I tried to do that LinkedIn live thing, audio thing. He was the first person to tune in, and I'm like, and he's a mayor of a local area here. He like runs one of the big school districts in the area. And I'm like, I cannot ever talk about not putting a logo in here because he paid us to do that. So it was not me. And if I had it up to do it all over again, if I saw it, I would slap a designer. But
you should do the, what is it that, so we have so many marketing companies work for us, and it's like, don't you need a refresh? It's about time for refresh. Here's an article saying that every 18 months, your customer needs to see, right? Like maybe you could use that and get paid again for it.
Like, hey, bud, like I know what you're going for, but I
don't know how we can top
that was
this,
popular. We actually created it in like 2017. So he's on episode. I just looked. He's on episode 247, and it is pretty good. So. It might be good time, but you know what? He's kind of got a brand now. So, and I think people are listening. So
he doesn't have
just leave it.
Microphone and headphones though. I mean, unless it's
what he should have is his face. He's a good looking dude. People know who he is. He should just like put his face out everywhere. But I don't think he's not very vain. I guess that's probably one of the problems.
So Fuzz, how come you guys don't do any like podcast production stuff? I mean, isn't that like the marketing shtick these days?
You know what? So we do some podcast stuff, but I don't talk about it much because it's not anything in this industry. So and the stuff that we do is
rated X
with a very big brand name, and I don't want to be associated with. I don't want them to think that if I say it. So
I get it. Yeah, it's not receiving money is not an endorsement.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also, I also have to say this: we just dropped a boatload on Acast's Podchaser, even though I said I'd never spend $1 with them because of their practices with email.
Yeah.
But we just dropped like $3,000 on their service because we need to get some of our guests scheduled on places. So our PR team is, wanting to have some software that'll help them out. So we're make sure if you're listening, if you're one of the other 4 on here still, make sure your show is listed on Podchaser because people do use it.
Yeah, that's what we gotta. That's a good tip. I saw on MicroAcquire somebody was selling a business podcasting like a whole agency like specifically designed for corporate podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
That was
it successful?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was in the black. So and they were only asking for like a 2x multiple, which seems reasonable. I mean, but yeah, it was like 1.5 million or something. It was a little bit more than I could entertain, but I should have sent it to you though. I just didn't know if you were. I already sent you 1 or 2, and I thought I'm not going to just send this guy all the shit that I can't afford.
Yeah, if you see something that you think would work for us, send it my way. We're currently working on a pretty big social new endeavor that's a little bit different. So that's where the rest of my focus is kind of going at this moment, is a new social media for some certain types of businesses that are dealt with in a certain kind of franchise / franchisee way. So, so that's, but I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. It's fascinating to me. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to find some adjacent things to pick up. I email the folks over at Audrey.io, which is shutting down. I mean,
that would anybody get back to, or
no, nobody got back to me, but that would be, it's not perfect, but if it's written in a language our developers understand, then
Why are they shut down? What was the reason?
Didn't say. Just got an email saying it's tomorrow. I think getting an email saying, "Hey, the 15th or the 14th or one of the days is the last day. Sorry, use Podcorn." Basically.
Yeah. So is that the same kind of system? Audrey.io was.
Did Podcorn buy them?
No, they're just shutting it down. I mean, maybe somebody bought
Audrey's dying, not yet. not Podcorn. Yeah.
Yeah, not Podcorn, but Audrey.io. I thought, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Perhaps one of the founders got a job and they said, you have to shut this down, which is common. Especially in tech.
Are any of you on Podcorn? Because we've made a number of. Have you gotten any deals out of it?
I've gotten work and I've paid for work. So
I have not. We've submitted probably 8 different pitches, and I've never so much as received no.
Oh from anybody. No. 8 isn't going to cut it, buddy. 8 is Bush League.
Okay, I didn't know. I wasn't sure what the threshold was for this. I just wanted to hear no thanks, we're not interested. Much.
No, you won't get it. Sometimes, so the best that can happen to you is if they, for negative wise, besides getting hired, is they'll set you as not a fit.
Yeah, so, that's what I was looking for. Any not a fit would have been some feedback to know that place actually worked.
Yeah. So let me just tell you, Jeff. I don't know if you're good. I know that you're. Sometimes you have to go at 9:30, but let me see here. Sponsorships. Proposals sent 76 for me, and I've probably gotten. Let's see. Does it say profile?
It's like online dating, isn't it?
I mean, it's like cold calling is maybe a better analogy, right? Like it's more than 1 out of 100, which is what cold calling was when everyone stopped doing it. Everyone should stop doing it anyway. It was 1 out of 100. So
you're telling me there's a chance?
I'm telling you there is a chance. So by the way, 0 not a fits.
Oh, okay. All right.
Out of all those. So no one has set me to not a fit ever, but I make it a point to set it to not a fit. So I've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've gotten 9 deals for, I don't know, 1280, 840, 1088, 400, 300, 120, 450, 150, 40. So, I mean, a few grand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's worth.
All right. Well, we'll keep pitching then. My 8 is Bush League then for Shanna's show. So,
yes, sir.
I need to put her on pitching those because she's a teacher and she's talking to people who want to have teachers read their ads. So she should write them and not marketing guy. But
I don't know. I think the ones that work, I follow up on. So if they don't, when they don't set it as not a fit, which they never have, I feel sorry for them because as the dates go by, I update it and lower the price. So,
there you go.
So I change the dates and lower the price. And I just, maybe 2 of those have been that where, the other thing is you got to get on early Mondays. It seems like everything's posted on Mondays. So Monday morning, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, when you wake up and you're having your coffee, browse through and, my pitches are all exactly the same. I just copy and paste them and I write 1 sentence about why I think I'm a fit for them. Hey, I think your pots and pans would be kick ass on my show because of, I have, my demographic is, 40-year-old moms or whatever.
Do you want to come on an episode of Good Morning Podcasters and talk about how to pitch on Podcorn?
I can. I mean, I don't know that 8 wins makes me an expert, but I can.
You could just say idea. We could say ideas for
just roll back the tape and cut this up and use it. You don't have to do it again.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Can you send me the audio, please? Or did we stop recording?
No, we haven't stopped recording, but yeah, no, I was planning. So Fuzz, I was planning on doing, maybe not every week, but I was going to send you a show or 2.
Yeah, that'd be great. I when we talked about how difficult it is to do a daily, and I want to get up to a daily. It's 9:31 my time right now, and I need to again finish writing 2 different mother effing reviews for tomorrow, which is painful for me. But I also I want to get something done. I've got some topics and such, but I'm
so how many you have? How many direct out of the 85? How many are directs to you? How many are in your tree?
Well, typically, so I've got biz dev. So the VP of biz dev, the VP of account management, the content director who oversees PR and copywriting, and then the VP of media buying and planning. So that's 4. And then typically the VP of social media or the director of social media, depending on who we've got in there. But our person left to go to Kohl's corporate recently. And so now I'm leading a team of 8 as the fill-in on that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a job in social media and you happen to live in the Milwaukee area, I'm looking for a content supervisor for social media. So
you don't have work from home, Elon Musk, or what? I mean,
we do have, we do have hybrid, but that does include some time in the office. So
you don't have
we
work
do have
from
remote.
St. Louis,
We do have remote work. Well,
That's what I was thinking.
I don't know if I could afford you there, Greg. So
Listen, if you had,
I will say this also. I don't know if the team of 24-year-old girls will be women will be something that you would want to lead, or they would want to be led by you. So
You're talking to Greg, right? Not me.
Yeah.
Either one, really.
Yeah, they're listen, it's the quality of the
reasons.
content. I'll be like, I the spell check has every one of these words highlighted. Is this misspelled or is this how you say this?
No, they're all super bright. They're all super bright. Just different, they're really good at what they do. They're just, I'm like work dad, but and like, I'm like hey, like they don't want to disappoint me, I think is what it is. But I'm not really inspiring to them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
We're looking for somebody to inspire them.
Bad jokes.
Yeah. Well, I do. Everything's a dad joke. Yes. So,
for you.
I mean, I'm currently wearing, if it helps any, I'm currently wearing Hey Dude shoes, if that makes any sense to anybody.
Oh, I love those.
Just send them your deadlift pictures though. That'll inspire them.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. They're like, oh, look, Dad's strong.
They know what old man strength is.
Oh, cool. Dad'll protect me if I need him, but also I'm going to walk all over him because he's dad. And also I feel bad that they don't have a current leader. And it was, I don't need to go. I'm not going to go and do it.
Yeah, no, five direct reports is perfect, especially at the VP level. Because you got to follow up on strategy, which is
I just need to give them the resources they need, and that most of my time is spent in business development, pitching new clients, that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, leading at a lower level is something I loved doing when I was at that level, and now I don't feel that I give them what they need. So
yeah, exactly.
And they're going to use this recording to ask me for a raise.
No, I'll cut this out. Well, I don't know. I probably if I remember, I'll try.
Thank goodness.
I only have it set up to cut out Ed, so I have to figure out how to cut you out.
You like how I said 60 and he didn't have a comment?
What did you say, Jeff? I didn't hear you.
I said happy 60th birthday to him and he didn't say anything. He's just turned 55 today.
Yeah.
He turned 55?
Yeah.
See, I thought he really turned 60. So I was about to go hard in, and then I thought, and then I was like, oh no. And he usually bails if he doesn't like something. He's just like, oh, I'm out.
I know. And there's like no hard feelings. Like the next time you talk to him, everything's fine.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm like, Ed hates me. And then he posts the thing like, here are the podcasters that I listen to. I'm like, oh, 2 of those links I work on. Thank you. So you don't hate me as much as I was worried you did. Because he's great. I love him. So
did you see
and I'm glad
124 download day the other day?
I did, yeah. He's been just having good stuff lately for him.
People should never underestimate the power of not a generic, but like a specific podcast name of what you do.
Yes.
Something searchable. Like it is worth its weight in gold.
I told Pixie that I couldn't find a strippers podcast anywhere. She's like, I'd never name it that. I'm like, I would. Yeah,
exactly. I would go on trends and I would search stripper related topics, whichever one had the best, conversions.
Would you, Greg?
So I would go to my history and I would just copy that and put it into Google Trends.
Yeah. It's like, oh my.
His history is Google Trends. It's kind of funny how that works out.
I would call it live from the pole.
I would know, like it's just like the stripper podcast.
Exactly.
The strip club or something like that, where people would, are going to just type that crap in and they're going to get that. I'm thinking that the 3 of us should just start a podcast called The Strip Club, and talk about ways to strip wallpaper, paint, those kind of things.
That's Arielle's counter programming. That's her. You think it's about like technology or something like that, like, but it literally is counting random shit in the world.
Yeah. Do you guys know
Cookie Monster?
Are you familiar with marijuana enthusiasts on Reddit?
No, but I'm gonna have to join because Missouri is now.
Well, you won't want to join marijuana enthusiasts. What you'll want to join is trees. So the subreddit trees is about marijuana, and then the group that loves trees named their subreddit marijuana enthusiasts. So if you go to marijuana enthusiasts, it's all about arborists and trees, and it's freaking awesome. Just the fact that those two are like symbiotic kind of subreddits that are about the opposite thing, but they both are in on the joke. It's so funny to me.
That's why I don't understand why the great exodus from Twitter, which isn't happening, by the way, but it's more like an influx. But the great exodus of Twitter didn't go to Reddit.
Yeah,
it seems like the best place for everybody.
Man, Mastodon is, like you said in your response to me. Yeah, it's like it's not a replacement for Twitter. It is, and I feel bad for the people who are on Mastodon and like use that.
It's horrible
because I feel like we like
what'd you say, Jeff?
Yeah, shitty version of Reddit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a shitty version of Twitter. But I feel like we as Twitter users went and like kicked in the door on Mastodon. We're like, "What's up, fuckers? We're here!" Like,
yeah, they're like, "What servers do you want to join?"
We're like, "Where's your beer, nerd?"
Do you want to join the server called ETH01 Beta 614?
No, man. How do I retweet on this? How do I retweet on this stupid piece of shit?
Oh, it's got to be confusing as shit. You know it is.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Buzz talked me into trying it, and I wished I wouldn't have.
No, I feel bad because I had reached out to the dude from Podcast Index to ask him a legitimate question about RSS feeds back in the day, and he had sent me an invite, and I never joined because I couldn't figure out how to join. But then when everybody was like talking about going to Mastodon, I'm like, I have this invite from the Podcast Index.social Mastodon. So I joined on that, and then I'm like, I think I just broke his trust because he had reached out to me via email and said, here's your invite, sir. And that was like 6 months ago. And then I'm like, finally like, hey, I'm here. Twitter sucks. And I'm probably never going to use it again. So
that's the only, that Mastodon server is probably the only one that I'm actually interested in, to be honest. I need to get an invite. I sent you can't DM Dave over at Podcast Index. So I don't know how to get a hold of him. But
what do you mean you can't DM him?
You might be able to DM him, but he's not my friend.
I DM him all the time. Yeah.
Oh, I might be able to invite you on that.
Oh yeah.
Let me look around. So I signed up. That was the other thing. I signed up for Mastodon like last week. I don't know, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I got a new iPhone, and all my logins were trashed. And my IT guy is like, "Oh yeah, all you have to do is like do this." And then he's like, "All right, I'm going to delete your old phone." And then he deleted it. I'm like, "Hey, what about my authenticator app with all my two-factor auth stuff?" And he's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, you don't save that to iCloud? I guess you don't.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. But I figured it out. I got all of them except for a couple. So, and I've got backup codes, I think. So
yeah.
But it's just been a pain to get up and running. But so I think Mastodon's not going to be much of anything. And also, Jeff and I recorded our Twitter Blue episode. And like we recorded it on Thursday, and then on Friday they shut down the ability to get Twitter Blue, which is kind of fun.
It'll be back this Friday though.
Will it? Okay.
I was about to say, I thought like when I read that I was not going to have it anymore, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck Fuzz is talking about. It's working.
And actually, I've noticed that some now have. I just took a screenshot while we were on the air before. Is that some of the blue check marks have an official check mark underneath their username now? It says. Like Fox 6 News in Milwaukee has a checkbox with the word official underneath their username. So
yeah, I wonder if let me check something. I wonder if that's
I'm seeing that right now too. Yeah, I saw that. I'm pissed because I tried to like piggyback off my new job here because like, any journalist can get a fucking verification mark, right?
You have to have published work.
I was going to go with this podcast network.
I know, but you have to publish your work.
Yeah, I know.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. If
do you mean?
So some like news outlets that had anything like I have friends who are journalists for small newspapers, but if they're owned by like the USA Today network or whatever, they have a system of getting verified where they submit that the news outlet submits their information and they get verified without any sort of, they could be an intern there and they can get verified without publishing anything.
No kidding.
So that was a path to verification because the outlet is verified and that would allow them through. So I have friends who have 100 followers and they're verified because they work for, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel or something.
Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Before I was rudely interrupted, that was my plan to try to do that, but obviously I never heard back, and I don't even think it's an option anymore.
By the way, we all say Elon Musk, right? And during our podcast, Jeff, I kept calling him Elon.
I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
well, yeah.
Could be just a Milwaukee accent.
Elon Gate.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm interested to see what all happens with that. I mean, I don't think it's you know how all these things go. Like whenever companies get bought by other companies, there's always this change things for the sake of changing them. And then it seems like 6 months later, they realize like why the old people did what they did. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't some like nefarious thing, or it wasn't some like, shitty administration. Like there were drivers that the new people were unaware of. Like I've seen that so many times in tech.
Well, I think if they actually, like Fuzz and I were talking, if they actually verified like it's you and you're doing something, whether you're notable or not, that would be cool. Like one option, right?
Yeah. What would you pay? What would you pay for that? Like if there was an actual, because let's say humans had to look at your passport and look up your LLC or whatever, or, get your incorporation papers or whatever it is, whatever verification, like what would you pay for that?
Well, here's the thing. I would not want it to be exclusive to only those who could afford to pay for it. Right. So like there may be like a subset of people in, less well-to-do areas, or people who are struggling, or people who are in different countries where the number doesn't, quite match up. I would hate to be exclusive to that. Now myself, I'd pay a one-time fee of like $100.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's worth probably even more than that, honestly. But
can I interject a crazy idea? Maybe it's verification based off owning a website, and you're verified within that website.
That's what I'm saying. Something, right?
Yeah, you post like just like when you're getting verified that you own a Google Analytics account where you have to post a code in the header or something.
Yeah. Right, but you can't post. But you can't. You can't post election changing data from Google Analytics.
No, true. That's a very, very, very good point.
But they verify the $8 standpoint.
They shouldn't get rid of the actual notable, I don't think. And I think they should. I mean, it's not bad to have a process of actually verifying. I don't know.
Well, I don't think they should call it. I don't think they should call it verified. Then like call it Twitter Blue, and your profile becomes blue if you pay for it, and you get these extras. And if you're verified because you're physically verified that you're yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been let's say you've been Twitter Blue for 12 months and you've paid $96 to Twitter and you're going to keep your subscription, then maybe they go in and at that time they ask you for your info. They give you that path to verification.
But we didn't get it for the check mark though. I mean,
no, I honestly, they said they were going to prioritize tweets in the feed, and that
right.
means say less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The blue check mark is actually a detriment because
now they think you're a Twitter Blue person. Yes,
I don't like it. Like I don't.
People are like, "Oh, you paid for that check mark." It's like I didn't pay for that.
Send me a DM with a high five, and that'll be good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know how you saw my tweet and you made a comment for my check mark? Yeah, that's what I paid for.
That would be awesome. They got to figure that out. If they can do that, though, then it'd be well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Facebook tried to do with the boosted, but then everybody was boosted, so it didn't work.
Everybody bitch. There's
Now
some
that
people
is-
on here they wouldn't even need that, right? I mean, but yeah, good option. Anyway, guys, I got to jump off here.
Yeah, same. What are you saying, Jim?
It was good hearing everybody. Is what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I
thanks
was
for
getting
coming
an
on.
exit too. So
Really good to hear your voice.
I heard Jim smack his knees, and he's like, "Well,
time to go.
Well,
It's over. Good night. Drive home.
yeah, these
Don't
New
screw the
Balances
safely
are
part. Just
killing
drive
me.
home.
He's got to
Look
get
at-
ready for tomorrow night.
look at that time. It seems about that time." What are all the
Overtime. No, it's
Midwest?
an hour and 45 minutes. That's more than I'm used to. Come on.
Hey,
Yeah.
Tim, what are you going to let all three of us on your
Hey,
podcast?
You know, it's funny. So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I have to be at the office. I'm doing this. I'm working on these reviews. I haven't touched them because I've been on this, but I know she's on Twitter and she probably sees the ring around my profile photo. It's like, you asshole.
Probably listening.
Yeah, no, she's not. But unless she's got a burner account that's edu because she's got an education. podcast.
She's on her flip phone right now.
No offense, edu. I'm guessing you're not her, but if you are, give me a thumbs up. I'll be home soon, sweetie. It's only 12 minutes away. Thanks, guys. Good night. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.